terminals are operating normally. Nothando Makutulela reports.
The logistics giant says its Cape Town container terminal is still experiencing high swells and remains windbound. It says this has impacted 2 vessels that are unable to dock. However, the logistics company says it continues to assess movements of smaller ships which can be docked during this period. Transnet says there are no incidents reported so far as it continues to ensure the safety of employees and port infrastructure.
PA Deputy President Kenny Kunene says transparency will assist the government in rooting out corruption. This as Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie is expected to launch an investigation into a published list of artists who received relief funding from the state during the COVID-19 pandemic. On Wednesday, it emerged that the department paid out over 72 million rand in financial relief to more than 3,000 creatives between 2020 and 2021. However, Kunene says some of those on the list say they did not apply for the relief and have never received the money.
After the publishing of the list, I was personally contacted by one of the legendary actresses, Winnie, who said to me that her name is on the list. She never applied for that funding. She never got that funding. So she does not understand why her name is on the list. Publishing those names has now showed the minister that there is corruption that has been happening there. People's names were used as references, but money never reached them. So that's why we called upon the minister to start a forensic investigation and follow the money.
And an expedition team is preparing to set sail to explore the wreck of the Titanic for the first time since the Titan submersible disaster last year. The 20-day mission will use unmanned underwater robots to create a detailed 3D image of what lies on the ocean floor. The BBC's Rebecca Morrell.
The wreck lies 3,800 metres beneath the waves. The team will study it using 2 underwater robots. They're fitted with an array of cameras to create a detailed 3D scan and sensors including a magnetometer, which will reveal what lies beneath the sediment for the first time. The team will be focusing on the debris field, where the contents of the ship are scattered across the sea floor.
The top story at 1 o'clock, the ANC in Limpopo says one of the items to be discussed in its Provincial Executive Committee meeting today is the VBS saga. For SAFM News, Kim Mudupi Makhalemele. Up next, The Full Circle.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
S3 is bringing you the best in Indian cinema every Sunday at 2 p.m. Laugh, dance, get drawn into the drama, revved up with the action, and maybe, just maybe, shed a little tear. Catch Gagi on the 7th of July, Selfie on the 14th, Prince on the 21st, and Laila Majnu on the 28th. It's Indian cinema like you've never seen it before. Channel your best entertainment with Indian cinema only on S3. Open up. S3.
Stages, pages, screens and more on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
Forever in your life, if I could stay, the apple of your eye, I would pray. No surprise when it's you and I would spend a decade based on lies, if I could stay forever in your life. See, I don't do well with change, and I'm so sure of your play. Your eyes change color. keeping you, not leaving you. You make things up, but there's no reason. Into my eyes, you keep repeating them. See, I don't know how I could leave when your love was should exceed some meaning, yeah. And although it's no excuse, believe me, and the hope we got don't come too easy, yeah. Easy, yeah. Your eyes change color when you lie. I can see it, I'm not blind, yeah. Your eyes, yeah. Your eyes, they sparkle in the light, but in the dark, I see the true colors of your heart. Your eyes, yeah. They say you love me, there's no one above me. And they say I'm pretty, I don't need no makeup. Your eyes, they tell a million lies. Your eyes, yeah. They say you love me, there's no one above me. And they say I'm pretty, I don't need no makeup. Your eyes, they tell a million lies. Your eyes, yeah. Said they lie, boy, they lie. You ain't gotta try, don't try. I know this is love. 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 I know this is love, yeah. I know this is love, yeah.
It is a Black Coffee featuring Shakana with Your Eyes, and that is how we kick off this Friday afternoon. As you know, that on Fridays we take things nice and easy, and we get to chill a little bit on the show and focus on things that are more artistic and creative in nature. And of course, yesterday we had quite the Friday of travel, having to get in and out of Cape Town in one day to bring you that broadcast from that business and commercial banking conference. And then today we're back in Johannesburg, bringing you the show live from HQ. Don't ever say that we don't endeavor to bring you the very best of content from all across the country. I hope you are having a good wrap up of the week, and if you're assessing your progress and your goals and achievements for the week, that you've managed to do everything that you set out to do over the last 5 days. On our end, we had a relatively good week, I think so. And we're wrapping it up in just the most chilled of ways. We've got a very special guest joining me in studio today for the bulk of the first hour of the show. We're going to be catching up with a South African storyteller. He's an executive producer, a poet, a filmmaker, and I just recently learned that also a journalist, spending a few years as well as a political activist, and we'll touch on that a little bit during the course of our conversation. None other than the living legend himself, Baba Dumandlovu, is in studio. And later on, we're going to be catching up with Philani Bubu, and we're talking the Folklore Festival that's returning for its third edition. And last year, they had a very good run and a very good success with this festival. So we'll find out what's on the agenda for 2024. And then coming up later on, as per usual on Fridays between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, we wrap up the show with Full Access. She's back in the music scene, and she's going to tell us exactly what she's been up to during her hiatus, as well as what we can look forward to with her new music that she's getting ready to release. I'm talking about none other than dance lounge musician Boosie is going to be in studio. It's always interesting talking to Boosie. You just never know which part of her life she's going to reveal and delve into in any conversation. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line that is open if you want to send us a voice note, or 086-000-2032. That's the number you can call us on if you'd like to go live with our guest today. You're more than welcome to do so. Alternatively, we are streaming as well via our social media platforms on SAFM radio across all of your media platforms. So be it Facebook, be it Twitter, you can find us there, or safm.co.za. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Friday afternoons are, of course, for fun, fabulous conversations with the friends of the show. And we've got living legend Dumandlovu joining us in studio now. He's a storyteller and executive producer of some of your favorite television shows that you've probably bonded with over the years. He's a poet, a filmmaker, of course, a journalist. I was surprised at this. And at some point, even being part of a Black consciousness movement. And he joins us in studio. How are you doing this afternoon, Bamdlov? You good?
I'm good, Sis Bridget. Thank you for having me. God has been good.
He really has.
Yeah, God has blessed me quite a bit.
When you reflect back on the last couple of years now, 4 decades and plus, as a television producer, storyteller, an archive of South African history, when you look at just your contribution to who we are as society and the stories that we tell, I mean, what for you sort of resonates or comes to mind with the reflections that you have, just casting an eye back on your career?
You know, Bridget, for me, the interesting thing is that I've never done something because I wanted to do something. I've always done something because it had to be done. Mm-hmm. So one just saw an opportunity or an opening, this has to be done, and you come in and you become of service to your people. Mhlambe, that's the brilliant way of describing me when you say storyteller, because as Africans, we've always had to tell our stories.
Yeah.
As Africans, at all times, our children or our young people have never understood who we are, where we come from, and therefore had a distorted view of where we were trying to go to. So our collective responsibility has always been, what do we say to our children? How do we set them straight? So I don't think my life was in pockets or in silos. I think my life was just one. The Black consciousness thing is a state of mind. It's something that I am, and I will always be. And it informs everything that I do. Everything that I do says I'm an African.
Yeah.
And what in my work is it that reflects that Africanness? What is it in my work that teaches young people on what to do in the future? I'm not sure if there's anything particularly that stands out.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about me, from when I was 10 years old, I wanted to be an amazing father. When I was 10.
Really?
Yeah, and it was just an experience that I had growing up under parents in the same house. My father dying when I was 13, looking at the experience of an alcoholic father and some of the interactions that I had with him. He had a profound effect on me. I took the positive things that he did, and I said, I want to do them better. I took the negatives and said, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I understood that there was the generational curse thing. So as a young person, I just dreamed of being a father. I wanted to have a lot of children. So in my life, even before I became a father, then I got married. I've always wanted to be a great father. And now I have an amazing relationship with my 7 children, and that's the thing that just drives me the most.
You got a little soccer team going there.
Yes, I do. I've always wanted to be a parent. I've always wanted to say, as black men, we have a responsibility to bring children to this world and raise them and raise them well.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I mean, as a 10-year-old, interesting that as a 10-year-old, you sort of came to that resolution that you wanted to be a great dad. Have you ever had any conversation? I don't know if you've ever just, I'm a big proponent of therapy to work through all of our stuff and to check in. And I don't know if you've ever unpacked that in that kind of setting and conversation.
So I come from a generation that there was never therapy when we grew up. And I think the makeup, the way we were, God created us, there was no environment or room for therapy. So I've never been to therapy. Maybe I've been to therapy once. When in one of my productions we had accidents, we had to do group therapy.
Yeah.
But I've really never been in that environment. Interestingly for me, one of the most therapeutic things that happens to me is my writing. I write for 12 hours a day or more.
Oh, wow.
I sleep few hours. Whenever I write, it's a cathartic and a therapeutic experience. If I go through some hell, I know that if I'm going to go and create work, my computer, the relationship I have with my computer is therapeutic. So I've never really had... I've never really thought that I need to go and sit down with somebody and unload. My children might not agree with me, but I'm 70 years old and I don't think therapy has been a part of my life.
And I ask that because obviously, reflecting on the relationship that you had with your dad, the positive and the negative, and the ability at 10 to already for yourself filter what it is you want to take away from your dad, and move forward with that's positive, and what it is you want to leave behind. That is quite something for a 10-year-old to be able to do.
I think, Bridget, it is the core reason for the work. I don't want to call it success. It is a core reason for me to do the things that I do and do them as well as I do. And the age 10 sticks out to me because I took some resolutions at 10. I don't want my kids to go through what I'm going through now. I don't want to go through, as a father, what my father is going through now. And I was a kid. So, and I had a relationship with him, and I loved him to death, but he was an alcoholic. Now, I also understood at a much later level, I'm sure the psychiatrist would have told me that we also have an alcoholic streak in my family. But as a young kid, I knew that I didn't want to drink liquor. Later on, I learned that I had broken the generational curse. Without going to therapy, my kids don't drink liquor right now. And I'm hoping to God that the generation that comes after me would not necessarily... a few days ago, I was having that conversation with my kids, and I was saying to them, we do have an alcoholic streak in our blood. So if you touch alcohol, and this was in an environment where we were talking casually, I wasn't coming down on them. And if you do touch alcohol, it is very possible that you will be dragged into it. I've got family members, and in the extended family members who are in that thing, because we do have it in our lives. So as a young person, from 10 and growing up, there are certain things I knew I didn't want to do. I've never touched a cigarette. I've never done drugs. There are just certain resolutions that I had made as a young person that still guide me as I go. And inherently, in the work that I do, some of these things permeate. For instance, if you watch a show like Mobango, which is 27 years in the air, you've never seen cigarette on Mobango. You've never seen a glass of liquor. You hardly ever see somebody drunk on Mobango, because we as a black consciousness proponent, we wanted to say we have a duty to pass on positive messages to society.
I love that. We're going to hold it there for a second and take a quick break, and then we come back on the other side and we continue our conversation. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note, you have a question or comment or reflection with Dumandlovu, of course, or you want to share maybe, growing up and being immersed in the worlds and the characters that he has written over the years alongside his teams and what that has meant to you, you're more than welcome to do so. 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on.
Channel the forgiving spirits of Utata Madiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Lee Bell shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Madiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. And of course, this Friday, we are in conversation right out the gate with the living legend, Bab Dumandlo, who joins us in studio. He's an executive producer, he's a poet, he's a filmmaker, he's a journalist, he's a playwright. He's behind some incredible productions that we've seen on stage as well as on our television screens. And when you were back in your day, it was Form 4, Standard 11.
Grade 11.
Oh, yeah, grade 11, Standard 9.
Standard 9,
Standard 9, grade 11. We've been through so many iterations of this situation. Then you drop out of school. And then by that time...
I failed Form 4. And because I was one of the student leaders, I couldn't bear to go back to school and repeat in front of everybody. I don't know what I felt, but I just couldn't go and be faced, And at that age, you are young and girls and everybody. And I had just become a loud mouth. The struggle was just taking off. And I was just one of the people who were in the leadership. So I didn't expect that I could repeat a class. Yeah. So I just no, I'm not going to do this.
Did you ever regret that decision?
No, I don't. Okay. I think as a society, we place too much emphasis on metric that is holding us back rather than push us forward.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't see why so much. Why kids have to go to so much just to do metric. And I think I'm a living example that you can drop out and pick up the pieces and do well in life.
And I was going to ask you in that moment, right? Because sometimes people don't see the possibilities of what could be, right? At any moment when you make a pivotal decision. But in that moment, did you already know? Because it seems like you were making decisions at various stages in your childhood for yourself. Did you already know that regardless, I'm going to be a success?
So I have to credit my mother because I do talk about my father, but I also my mother was just something else. She was a forever presence in my life. When my father died when I was 13, my mother allowed me to be. I mean, when I look back into some of the things I was doing, I used to go to the golf course. I used to park cars in towns. I was a very resourceful kid. I used to go to town every weekend. When I wasn't going at the golf course, I'd go to libraries and search for information because she had allowed me. So I was much older in mind than I was because my mother looked upon me. I was a deputy mother and a deputy father. So by the time I dropped out of school, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just thought that I was going to go out there and look for something to do. I then get into the train and go to town, and I pass by, I think it was the South African Council of Churches or the Institute of Race Relations. It's one of the two, I don't remember. There's a sign outside that there's a 6 weeks journalism course. And I get interested. Now, journalism, I didn't know what they...
I was about to ask,
I didn't know. No, journey, traveling, journalism. So I just thought, And I walk inside. There's a lovely lady, Toba Mavimbela's mother, Mrs. Mavimbela. She says, oh, yeah, we're going to be... There's a British... a writer who lives in Zimbabwe who's coming to train writers. Now, I had been writing from when I was 12. In school, that was one of the things. So I'm in the right place. I sit there for 6 weeks. They feed us and they train us. I've just dropped out of school. And the newspapers then come to the institution. The World newspaper and the Star newspaper were looking for the 3 best students. I was one of the 3. So, and I don't know if I was at the top or I was at the, but I was just one of the 3. And that's how I got into the world of journalism. So the plan, I have, and I don't mean to be facetious, but I've never had to go and look for a job. opportunities presented themselves to me, or opportunities surrounded me, and I grabbed them.
Yes.
So I was a journalist until I left the country in 1978. No, 77. Sorry, I left the country in 77, and I had become one of the top journalists, largely also because of the June 76 uprisings,
Yes.
because I covered that, and I was just one of those journalists. And I mean, even today, in June, I get calls for interviews and all of those kinds of things because of the role that I played. I worked with the leadership and of the students, and I was just in the middle of everything. Yeah.
Do you think perhaps? Oh, you know what? It is the headline news. Let's take the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side. We'll continue our conversation, and this is why we do what we do, so we can hear the stories that we never hear about. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086002032 is the number that you can call.
A very good afternoon. With the news headlines, ke Mudupi Makgalemele. The newly appointed Communications Minister, Soli Malati, has outlined some of his most pressing priorities for the 7th administration. The ANC in Limpopo says one of the items to be discussed in its Provincial Executive Committee meeting today is the VBS saga, and celebrities including reality TV stars Kim and Khloe Kardashian and actress Priyanka Chopra and political and business leaders have started arriving at Mumbai Airport in India for the wedding of the son of Asia's richest man. I'll be back with all the details at 2.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
In a conversation this afternoon with Ubab Dumandlovu, of course, and he is behind some incredible South African productions. The list of them is as long as my arm is, both on and off stage. And I see you, Silo. We are definitely going to take your call in a moment. And Maela in Pulugwane, we're going to come to you in a second. And you know, Babduma, you say that you've never had to look for a job, right? But I wonder if, as you said, is it a sense of being aware and astute to opportunity, or as Oprah says, the sense of preparation, opportunities, preparation meeting luck? Because when you are prepared, then you're able to identify that moment.
I think it's a combination, because I think God has placed me at the right place at the right time more times than I care to remember. And the experience that I've just explained of seeing a sign about journalism when I didn't even know what journalism was shaped my youth, because I cut my teeth in the newspapers. I became a journalist at a golden era of journalism with people like Abu Pesi Koboza, Abu Sten Mujwadi, Abu Agri Class, Abu Kesi Muti. I mean, the massive names of Peter Makubana. I personally worked with all of those people. I just found myself being placed there. My life has been like that. I've found myself in the middle of things. I worked with Umama Winnie Mandela. I reported directly to her in the struggle. She was my commander. I've just found myself at different places. So I think also it is fate, and I think also it's destiny. I think Laba, who are above us, who came before us, I think they've also been looking out. And I think God has also decided that this child is going to be at these places. And because of that, Bridget, you don't want to mess up with that opportunity. You want to use it to the best of your ability. So when I do a play, whether it's for the stage or I create work for television, I understand the purpose that I came to this world for. So you just can't do something flippant. You can't just do something that's going to let the nation down. So I do everything with that kind of passion, understanding that I'm the one who has chosen to do this. I better make sure that I change lives. So my work changes lives. Not because I wanted to change lives, but because that's what I was brought here to do. I'm a vessel. And then I also go back to them and say that you said I should do this, and it better be influential, it better be effective.
Yeah. That speaks to moving with purpose, though. And a lot of creatives, well, this day and age, people will argue that creatives don't move with a conscious purpose.
I was lucky to understand my purpose at a very young age, so I would agree with you on that. But I don't want to take the credit for things that are beyond me, because I've grown up with some amazing people in my life who were not as successful or who were not as lucky as I was. And I know that some of the things are not because I'm the smartest piece of chalk in the room, but it's a collective of things that happen where you are placed at the right place.
Got you. Our lines are open. I think at this point, I'm going to ask you to put on your headphones just for a moment so that you can actually hear some of the comments from our listeners. Of course, we are in conversation with Bab Dumandlovu, and he joins me in studio. He's behind some of your favorite titles, Mubango, which has run for over 20 years already. 27
yeah.
27 years on SABC2, Uzalo as well. We've got Imbewu. We've got My Current Obsession, My Brother's Keeper. It's My Current Obsession. And of course, we've got Queen Mujaji that is coming up. The preview was yesterday, premiering the show, and that's coming with much anticipation. Silo out in Bombela, how are you?
Yes, good day and good also afternoon to Ndate Dumandlovu. Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure, go ahead.
Yes, we really want to congratulate Africa More for the good work that he has been doing for so many years. And he has inspired some of us. It's not about me today, but I've been writing also since I was in primary for stage and other things, and also served in the National Board of Directors of NACET, National Community Theatre for Education and Development. But I'm self-taught, and we're looking forward to get skills and experience from Batwalsana Leborre Dumandlovu, because Dumandlovu has proven that he's an institution himself and on the performing arts discipline, and we're really proud of people like himself. We need many more Dumandlovus in this country, instead of other people from other countries or world who will come and tell our story. Well, we have our own.
Love it.
And I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate him on the good work that he's doing. I hope I will meet him one day so that he can hold our hands and go with us as young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Silo, for that. That was Silo in Bombela. Please remember to switch off your radio. Is it Mayele? Mayele in Pulugwane?
Laela.
Maela. How are you?
No, not Maela. Laela.
La. They wrote it as M. Okay. Yes. Laela. How are you?
Laela Mpoloke. I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the South African SAFM listeners, and most especially good afternoon to Duma.
Good afternoon to you, Laela.
Yeah,
Laela.
I don't know if you still remember me. I was with the late Dr. Kanyile in New York, but you used to be in New York, so we used to meet frequently.
Yeah, no, it's a long time, Nantade Laela. I remember Dr. Kanyile very well. He was my family doctor, and when he came back, we continued the relationship. But, 40 years is a long time.
Yes, and then maybe if I can remind you that one of my friends who went to the same college with you was Michelle Drayton.
It's been forever.
Like I said, 40 years is a long time. And when you meet a lot of people, you have too many names that you have to be remembering. So it's a struggle. Yeah.
Duncan Tate, thank you for sharing the memory of connection.
No. It's what I wanted to say is what he said is really what he is.
Okay, thank you, Ndati. Thank you so much. That's the thing, though, about Dumayaz. I mean, sometimes people think that you knew people in the spotlight, you knew celebrities and personalities. You're being full of yourselves when you say, "Ish, please give me context," because I don't remember. But every single day, you meet. I mean, just the productions alone that you've had, on average, I can only imagine 100 plus cast and crew.
200.
Look at that. And then you've had how many productions and how many people who dip in and out in the many lives that you've lived. So we absolutely understand. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Hey, Bridget. You know, yesterday I was listening to someone from Balobedu who was saying that other Africans, like Zulus or Xhosas, do not have a right to write the history of Balobedu. And I think that's nonsensical, because if you are a writer, you're a writer. If you are a storyteller, you're a storyteller. It doesn't matter which tribe or which nation you come from. So I want to say to Magandlovu, well done, and keep it up, and write the stories of Africa. Next time, please write the stories of Nigeria, of the Igbos. Thanks, it's Bongi here.
Thanks for that, Sis Bongi. Oh, you can take that off now, Babduma. You can take your headphones off and go back to being cute and cool.
Oh, right.
and these are important stories, right?
So when I came back from the United States, Bridget, about 99% of the stories on television, SABC, were written by white people for black people. Were written by white people. We know the names, you know. And black people's names would be used just for convenience. And then I came back. I'm one of the people that said, this can't be. But we didn't complain.
Yes.
And the black people who were working with those white people did not complain, but we had the stories that we had. And I was very critical of those stories. I'm a Pan-African. So I then argued that we need black people to tell black stories. And guess what? This thing of being at the place where you're divine to be, the first project that was accepted from me was not the first project I presented. But the first project that the SABC accepted from me was a story called Mubango.
Oh, really?
A Chivenda story. So that was in 1997. You're too young to understand, to even know what Mubango, what Chivenda's placement in our society was. Nobody knew anything about Amavenda, Isivenda, or anything. Especially with Zululand and Xhosa and Bubanban. Overnight, Isivenda became a major language in our country. Till today, you cannot wish Isivenda away. And a whole lot of people then happened because of Umdumo that was started by Umbang. Today, we've got a Chivenda-speaking president. I can boldly say that those are some of the contributions that a television story contributed towards. It's not Mubango that made Matamela to be the president.
Yes.
But I can tell you that it contributed to it. 27 years later, the Venda-speaking people will be the first ones to tell you that if Mubango went off air, they wouldn't have their own this thing. I can gladly stop writing other language groups.
Yeah.
But then, you know, what will happen? I don't think that Zulus should write necessarily only Zulu stories. Ishaka Ilembe was not done by Zulus.
Yes.
And it's a great story. You know, we as African people should learn to acknowledge each other and work with each other to uplift each other.
I like that sentiment, and I want to come back. We're going to take a quick one, but I want to come back on the other side, because I think what you speak about here also speaks to this conversation around representation, right? We put all kinds of fancy words to it now, and we westernize these terms, but essentially that is what it is, for people to see themselves reflected to themselves and to other people, but also in positive lights and in authentic ways. Let's take a quick break, and then we come back and continue our conversation.
Your geyser would have hot water, but some people overloaded the transformer with their illegal connections. You're late again, and the robots don't work. Some people vandalized it for copper. The whole community doesn't have electricity because some people have been bridging meters for a small fee, and now the transformer has exploded due to overloading. Don't allow illegal connections by criminals to inconvenience you and your community. Report criminals to ESCOM on 0800 11 2722 or the SAPS. Save your transformer. Save lives.
Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding. The venue, decor, rings, guest list, the speeches, the vows. Seeing a tear roll down her groom's cheek. The $1 million budget. I think there's a typo in the script, no? No, carry on. It's $1 million US, Chief. Bespoke Cartier jewelry inspired by Meghan Markle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of flowers and multiple designer wedding dresses are nothing out of the ordinary for Lillian Chu, a wedding planner to the super rich in East Asia. She only takes 10 weddings a year at an average cost of $1 million. Channel your best jaw. with the $1 Million Wedding Planner this Thursday, the 18th of July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
So in 2011, the University of Venda bestowed him an honorary doctorate in English. And then in 2022, the University of Ongoye.
University of Zululand. Yeah.
My bad. Ongoye. Bestowed upon him an honorary PhD in recognizing of his work in the creative arts. And you've also published an anthology on South African plays.
Yes.
Very important that as well, because in the world of playwrights, and we've spoken to a few theatre practitioners off recent, and they're just talking about, how plays don't necessarily get the respect that they desire within the creative sector. And the importance of just archiving them in anthologies so that they can have a far reach for people to understand that they are literary works. They're not just short stories for a theatre stage.
Something sad is happening, Bridget. So I'm working on two anthologies. One of them is going to be published in 2025. The second one, I'm not sure. Something sad is happening. Mbongeni Ngema, who was a very close friend of mine, who I had worked with in the United States, I was partly responsible for his success. Today, when you Google him, you can't find anything. When you want his works, you can't find them anywhere because we do not write and we do not publish. You can't find black playwrights anywhere because they do not publish and because we kind of focus too much on workshop theatre rather than on writing. I'm a writer. I cannot die without leaving a legacy of literature that reminds people of who I am. I always criticize television that it took away my life as a literary person. Because if I wasn't writing for television, I can imagine how many plays I would have written. I can imagine how many books I would have written. But television has taken my kids to school. It has grown them. But it also robbed me of an opportunity to write. So as I work towards moving away from the center stage, I want to sit down and commit words to paper and publish. I'm planning on an anthology of 10 of my own plays to publish them early next year because we need to write so we can leave a legacy. So that at universities, when people study, they can study at our works. Whether they like the work or not, it's not important, but you need to have a legacy. Today, we know Shakespeare 500, 600, 700 years after he died because he wrote and his works were published.
Yeah.
Athol Fugard has done amazingly well in that front. Zakes Mda is doing extremely well. We need to grow the list of people who publish because it's important.
Absolutely. And I want to explore that in the context of your television work, right? Because I think some of the reasons why your work resonates so well with South Africans is not only is it an authentic reflection of who we are, going back to, Mubango as that example, but also actors will often say, and you hear a lot of international actors talk about this, to say my performance is only as good as the words on the paper, and that's always the missing thing sometimes in the context of South African television.
Writers take, particularly television writers, we take life for granted. We take our people for granted. When people sit down to write television stories, they do their research based on an American approach or a British approach to television or to making television. I'm saying we take our work for granted because we forget that my aunt in Bergville or my nieces in Jablani, they want to see themselves on television. They don't want to see, they might be fans of Beyonce and Miley Cyrus and whoever and Justin Bieber. But when they sit down later in the evening and watch television, they want to see themselves. Our responsibility is to reflect them on television. We need to see ourselves on television. We need to see that Baba and that Malume and that aunt and see ourselves. So therefore, we need to create an academia that reflects Africanness. We should not associate quality with overseas. we need to understand that we need to do research. We've just finished the research on this massive project of the Queen Mujaji. The amount of research that we had to do was just phenomenal. This is something that happened 200 years ago. So we need to start putting archives of a history that's going to be a living history so that our kids can go back and reach out to it. And we have just not even started. There is Umkabayi Gajama, there is Unandi, there is Mantatis, there is King Sobuza, Kosetive's father.
Yeah.
There are so many giants that we need to write about, not only for television, but then leave a legacy of literature where we can always celebrate them.
Absolutely. And speaking about leaving the legacy, unfortunately, we have to wrap this conversation on your legacy right here because I have to get into Kids Corner in Nalibali, which will take us to the 2:00 news. But Babduma, thank you so much for gracing our invite and for coming through and sharing your story and aspects of you that I think maybe we weren't quite aware of. I think we got to appreciate you a little bit better and really appreciate the work that you do and the work that you've given us so selflessly over the years. Congratulations on everything, by the way. Congratulations on everything. And you still look so fresh at the age of 70.
May God bless you. May God bless you and your viewers and your listeners. Thank you.
Let's get into Kids Corner and then we'll go to the top of the news.
In South Africa, 1 in 5 children under the age of 13 is overweight or obese. Sign a petition to demand strong warning labels on unhealthy packaged food. And don't forget to catch the next episode of Chew on This at healer.org on Thursday, 27 June from 3 p.m. Young people tell us how big food companies are feeding them lies.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063 408 8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
Hello friends and welcome to another exciting episode of Nalibali. Fears are a normal part of childhood and so is learning to manage them. As children, sometimes we are afraid of imaginary things like monsters, but often fear relates to what's going on in our lives. Learning to cope with fear isn't easy. It's especially hard for some kids who learn and think differently. They may have trouble processing information and keeping emotions in check. Fear makes it easy to think that the worst is going to happen. It's the brain's way of trying to protect us from danger, but the brain doesn't always know if the danger is real or not. Let's listen to today's story called Conquer Your Fears, written by Mpumelelo Matwa. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and dance!
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above a world so high, like a diamond in the sky.
Kathy loved to sing. She sang beautifully in a sweet high voice. Her singing soothed and touched many hearts because Kathy sang everywhere she went. Sometimes she would even burst into a song while she was playing. In class, when the teacher asked the learners to sing, Kathy would lead the class in song, and in the mornings as they walked to the school assembly, Kathy would sing loudly and confidently while the other children looked on with happy smiles.
My favorite singer is Pretty Yende. She is our own beautiful opera singer. She has sung on stage with famous singers all over the world. Her high soprano voice is like the voice of an angel. I would like to be like her one day.
When the school announced that it needed good singers to be part of the school choir, Kathy was the first to sign up. For 4 years, Kathy sang in the school choir without missing even one practice session. Then in her last year of school, just before the national choir competition, Kathy suddenly stopped going to the practice sessions. While the other members of the choir were busy preparing for the competition, Kathy kept herself busy with other things.
Why aren't you going to choir practice?
Asked Lulu, Kathy's best friend. Kathy explained her decision to Lulu.
I really hate it when Miss Sandile tells us she wants to listen to us one by one in front of the whole school. And then, if she thinks your voice is not good enough, you're not allowed to sing in the choir anymore. Imagine if she asked me to leave the choir. It would be so embarrassing. And then I would not be able to take part in the national choir competition.
Kathy said,
Kathy, you sing so well and you have a beautiful voice. Everyone believes in you.
Lulu encouraged her, but Kathy was scared.
I would hate to be dropped from the choir at the last minute, especially since I've spent so much time attending choir practices.
Said Kathy.
You will never be dropped, Kathy. You have the best soprano voice in the choir. Everyone in the choir knows that. You know, even Mrs. Sandile is worried about you.
Lulu said, but Kathy just sighed. Then one day Miss Sandile came to visit Kathy at home.
Fear is a disease, Kathy.
She said,
Fear has destroyed many young people's lives. It comes in many forms, and many people have failed because they were driven by fear. They let go of many golden opportunities that came their way. They let their talent go to waste because they feared that they would not succeed.
Kathy kept quiet and looked at Miss Sandile as she spoke. Miss Sandile continued.
You are destined for great things, Kathy. You have a special talent. You can become a famous and well-loved singer, just like Pretty Yende. I'll never drop you from the choir. I want you to sing, and I want you to enter the soprano solo section of the competition this year. You could easily be our own Pretty Yende.
To encourage Kathy even more, Miss Sandile said,
If you want to be like her, conquer your fears. Be brave. Show the world what you are made of. Help us win the national choir competition and bring the trophy home this year.
Miss Sandile stood up and left Kathy to think about what she had said.
Miss Sandile has spoken wise words, Kathy,
said her mother.
And I agree with her. You have a special talent and you must not allow fear to destroy your dreams.
I listened to her carefully, Mother. Although I'm afraid of failing, I'll take part in this year's competition.
Kathy said. She also decided to enter the soprano solo session. As she stood on the stage waiting for the violin and piano to lead her into the song, she thought about her favorite singer.
I love Pretty Yende, and I want to be just like her. I'll conquer my fears and be brave, just like Pretty.
When Kathy finished singing, everyone stood up from their seats and clapped loudly. At the end of the competition, Kathy had the wonderful announcement. And the winner in the soprano solo session is... Kathy Mulife! Kathy was very glad that she had listened to her choir director and had not let fear destroy her dreams. And so we come to the end of another Nali Bali story time. Today's story was called Conquer Your Fears, written by Mpumelelo Matwa. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nali Bali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nali Bali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nali Bali, it starts with a story.
The top stories at 2 o'clock. The new communications minister speaks out, and Limpopo ANC to discuss the VBS issue. A very good afternoon. The newly appointed communications minister, Soli Malati, has outlined some of his most pressing priorities. Speaking to our news desk, he emphasized the need for the public broadcaster to reduce its dependence on state funding and to address financial sustainability. Malati has also reiterated the importance of diverting funds that are meant for state-owned entities to social services that are needed to uplift the lives of the most vulnerable in society.
You need the state-owned enterprises like the post office, the post bank, the SABC to be run well, and some of them have been run well, but also to be financially sustainable so that they can increasingly be less dependent on state funding, because the reality of the financial situation that government finds itself in is that there is less and less money to fund government activities and government programs. So it will be strategic even for the national fund for these entities to create an environment that allows them to, one, diversify sources of revenue.
The ANC in Limpopo says that one of the items to be discussed in its provincial executive committee meeting today is the VBS saga. This follows the publishing of the plea agreement affidavit by convicted former VBS chair Tsifiwa Matodzi. ANC members Florence Radzilani and Denim Caesar are implicated in the affidavit for allegedly receiving funds irregularly from the bank. The ANC's Jimmy Machaka says while the affidavit implicates some ANC leaders in the province, law enforcement agencies have not charged them criminally.
We have also noted that various former and current leaders of the ANC are mentioned in the affidavit, which was part of the plea bargaining. And of course, as an organization, we are very disappointed because throughout, we are made to believe that the matter of VBS has reached finality as far as it relates to various leaders of the ANC. Of course, the ANC will digest this matter because in any event, there's nothing new from that matter. We have always known that certain leaders have been mentioned, but there's not been any work on the part of law enforcement agency in a form of charging them criminally.
Newly appointed Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwahube has pledged support to the parents and staff of Rocklands Primary in Carltonville, where families lost their children in the tragic accident that left 11 children dead on Wednesday. One of the families lost a total of 4 children from one household. The accident took place in the Gokosiwetela area in Merafong on the west of Joburg after the Scholar Transport minibus that they were travelling in was hit by a bakkie, causing it to overturn and catch fire. Investigations are underway to determine whether the Scholar Transport had a permit to ferry learners to school. Gwahube says she'll be meeting with the affected families later today.
Of course, the issue of scholar transport is one that's incredibly important. Scholar transport, along with infrastructure, is something that is very close to my heart because ultimately, when learners are going to school, they should not be in danger of being harmed on their way to school. Of course, it's unclear, the investigation is still ongoing about this matter, but we don't want to lose learners. No one life is a life too many that has been lost. And so that is why I want to also go and send my condolences and my support.
The PA says transparency will assist the government in rooting out corruption. This as Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie is expected to launch an investigation into a published list of artists who received relief funding from the state during the COVID-19 pandemic. On Wednesday, it emerged that the department paid out over 72 million rand in financial relief to more than 3,000 creatives between 2010 and 2021. However, PA Deputy President Kenny Kunene says some of those on the list say they did not apply for the relief and have never received the money.
After the publishing of the list, I was personally contacted by one of the legendary actresses, Winnie, who said to me that her name is on the list. She never applied for that funding. She never got that funding. So she does not understand why her name is on the list. Publishing those names has now showed the minister that there is corruption that has been happening there. People's names were used as references, but money never reached them. So that's why we called upon the minister to start a forensic investigation and follow the money.
A man has drowned in the Blackheath industrial area in Cape Town after he was swept away by a strong current of water in a canal following heavy rains. Police say the man was walking on the pavement when he slipped and fell into the canal. Spokesperson Joseph Swartboy says at the time of the incident, the roads were flooded. He says the deceased identity is still not known.
SAPs and fire and rescue divers were deployed to the area to search the area where the person was last seen by an eyewitness, upon which a search ensued. The body of an unknown man was retrieved from the water. The victim was declared deceased on the scene by the medical personnel. Umfuleni police registered an inquest for further investigation.
And celebrities including reality TV stars Kim and Khloe Kardashian, actress Priyanka Chopra, as well as political and business leaders have started arriving at Mumbai Airport in India for the wedding of the son of Asia's richest man. Anand Ambani, the son of Reliance Industries chair Mukesh Ambani, will tie the knot today with Radhika Merchant, the daughter of the pharma tycoons Viren and Shaila Merchant. More from the BBC's Archana Shukla.
Traffic in the city's central business district, where the wedding festivities will take place, will literally stop for the 3-day extravaganza. Police have deemed it a public event, and most offices in the area have asked employees to work from home. The wedding, estimated to cost over $250 million, is a culmination of celebrations which began in March when an event was attended by 1,200 guests, including Meta's Mark Zuckerberg and Microsoft's Bill Gates. Rihanna, Katy Perry, Backstreet Boys and Justin Bieber have all performed in the pre-wedding celebrations.
The top story at 2 o'clock, newly appointed Communications Minister Solima Latsi has outlined some of his most pressing priorities for the 7th administration. The Full Circle continues. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Shopping sprees, catching flights while others catch feelings, shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. You know, Njofo. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun, or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
reng fang ka mela diphuka dimpuka dinkisa mankaleng matlhaleng go go buiwang ka puo koko le maele teng Setswana sa teng se le boteng bo metla taola banna teng magageng a go madipela go re batang sa mokotla sa mpa re mpampetsa re thaba re bua re besa seno se re se bitsa re re boitumelo maropeng go tlhokega poelo re bue ka tsa botshelo jwa seng le botshelo ba motho gapele a re boele semele ke ka mo tshitshilwana e sule le lwala
It is a Bongo Muffin coming through with Kurio Uno. We love that song. It's one of my favorite Bongo Muffin songs. They are no longer quite the Bongo Muffin that we know them as. Of course, you do know that Thandiswa did confirm that she's no longer with the group. She's now moving forward as a solo artist. So in the essence of how we know Bongo Muffin, that chapter has come to an end. But I'm sure they'll convene for special performances from time to time somewhere in the future. We've entered the 2 o'clock hour of the show as we wrap up our Friday. What a great week we've had, and I hope that you've had an awesome week as well on your end. And it looks like we're going to have good weather going into the weekend. You know, good is relative in winter, but as long as it's not bitterly cold and it's not raining, we'll take it as good weather. We're getting into stages, pages, screens, and more now. We're talking the Folklore Festival that's returning for its 3rd edition with a diverse lineup of storytellers across a series of fringe shows. And we're going to be catching up with the festival director.
Stages, pages, screens, and more with Bridget Masinga.
Catching up with festival director Philani Bubu, and we're talking the Folklore Festival coming back for its 3rd edition. How are you doing, Philani?
I'm doing great, Bridget. Thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you. So 3rd edition of the festival, exciting times, because once we hit, the 3rd edition, it means that the festival, at least in my eyes, it means the festival is cemented with its audiences, and it's becoming one of those festivals that we can look forward to with much anticipation during the artistic and creative calendar.
Well, this is what we hope for, and we're still to prove it, I guess, in the next 2 months. And we're still building, but I do believe that we've been able to communicate what we're about, what we put on, and what people can look forward to for sure.
Let's reflect on the past 2 festivals, sort of what has made them a success and what has had them resonating with festival goers.
Right. Well, we are the Folklore Festival, which means that we focus primarily on folk music, music of that really speaks to our indigenous as well as our own identity. And we really truly look into kind of culture and heritage that informs the content of the festival. But also beyond music, we curate storytellers, oral traditionists, authors, African authors, And we run a program that's, fully for families, but also young people and older. So we curate a very rich kids program that also involves a kids book fair, kids workshops, and the likes, just to kind of promote intergenerational dialogue. And I think what's been really unique, or a unique selling point, has been the idea that we've been so Pan-African, but also so diverse. So we've brought in artists from Ghana, from Kenya, from Lesotho, and will continue to be Pan-African and tell a really, truly Pan-African story. But at the same time, not only look at musicians. We're not just another music festival. We're hosting poets, authors, thespians this year, filmmakers, documentary filmmakers, and we're planning to be really thorough about our purpose.
And I like this convergence of the many disciplines, poetry, literature, theater, music, and oftentimes in the creative spaces, these things happen in silos. There's a music festival, there's a book fair, and so they separate. But in essence, we know in a lived experience, they all converge and come together and intersect in beautiful ways. So why not have a festival that brings them all together under one roof?
100%. We can all acclaim to one thing, and myself as an artist and as a musician who leads with music, found this very interesting dynamic and intersection something I could really lean into, because as a musician, I found myself limited by the idea of only making sounds, right? So I'm a poet and a storyteller as well. And also I embody a lot of my aesthetic in terms of my fashion. I lean into so many other creative arts to be able to express the much that I'm trying to say in my own music, in my own sort of curation of folklore. And so with the festival, I really did want to extend the conversation to these other disciplines that could really intersect. So you'll see over essentially the theme this year, let me give it to you. It's called We the Folk. And we're kind of leaning into, it's like 3 cities, 30 days, contemplating 30 years of freedom. And I just felt that this is a conversation and there's an agenda to be looked into, and various disciplines could come together in marriage and collaboration to do that. So we have on Women's Day an exhibition called Femme Rage, and then second lineup is book authors discussing writing woman in the now, and then we close off with 3 artists, strong female voices with a live music set. And then another example, we have Remembering Igama with a thespian, playwright, Slindile Mthembu, paired with Sia Makuzeni, who's a folk jazz artist, who will respond to that work, but also, put on her show. And we have, filmmakers with folk selectors on vinyl. We have a folk tales workshop paired with a DJ who curates these archival sounds, these indigenous sounds of our people. And so there's so many ways to really look at our identity, our heritage, and our culture through disciplines, but also in collaboration.
So what I'm understanding as well is that this year's program, as you've just alluded, quite extensive, quite integrated, and components of it happening for a prolonged time over an entire month across 3 cities.
Yes. So we felt that if we were to curate only a one-day festival, in the heat of the moment, while parents are putting their kids in the kids' fair, they kind of really exacerbated and then exhausted, and they kind of relax and listen to music, and never really engage fully with like some of the workshops we curated, because it's only one day. And we felt that as a community, we needed to be a lot more, deeper, literal, and more meaningful with the work that we're actually trying to showcase in the conversations we're trying to have. And so a festival to me is a celebration of work that's been done. And so this month-long program makes sure that we are bonding with our community, that we're deepening with our collaborators, that the work is fully absorbed, that the content is understood, and we have enough time to do that. And so that there is real purpose in kind of what folklore is, which is passing on generally oral traditions and information through time. But in this case, this also gives us a way to archive and document and really take our time, which is what this agenda of our African stories deserves. So that is what we're trying to achieve, and I think year on year we'll keep doing it. The main festival will still be held on 14 September at Constitution Hill, but I'm trying to dismantle that festival behavior that's just about a good time. We will celebrate, but we'd love to build a community and connect with people and truly bond with our community followers and members.
Yeah. Also, I mean, We the Folk this year celebrating our 30 years of freedom as South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy. So lots of themes also, I'm presuming, over the 30 days of the prolonged engaged schedule to be unpacked and perhaps to be discoursed amongst the community of festival goers.
Well said, indeed. What we try to do is to mark significant dates to say, quite often as South Africans, we lean into a date and then we think that conversation is only for that date. But this year, as South Africans, we have the opportunity in the conversation at large to look at all the dates, to look at all the commemorations, to reflect on all the things that have happened and all the things that we wish for and desire. And so we've been holding space. On 16th June, we had a Youth Day edition in Cape Town, just as a launch platform. We hold the date for Women's Month on Women's Day. We'll also be holding a memorial-like moment for Marikana, because the memorial doesn't exist. We'll be holding an exhibition with Felix Dlangamandla, who holds photographic works, and a dinner talk with other curators and artists who have held, Marikana and Memorial on the 16th of August. And so on and so forth. We want to say that the conversation of the last 30 years, / probably before that, in freedom expressions or through creativity community, what can that look like within this festival and within just our culture in general?
It's always lovely when we catch up with creatives that are doing amazing things, and we're going to just pause our conversation here with Philani Bubu. We're going to come back on the other side of this break and continue to find out more. And I think our listeners, now that they have a lovely understanding and you've sort of tantalize their taste buds a little bit as to what the Folklore Festival is all about, the Folklore Festival. We will then come back on the other side and delve maybe a little bit closer on some of the items on the festival agenda and, of course, some of the logistics and the admin stuff that folks need to be aware of. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come right back.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
Stages, pages, screens and more with Bridget Masinga.
And of course, we are in conversation with the director of the Folklore Festival, Philani Bubu, who also curated the festival. It's now in its third edition this year, and it's supported by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, and it's going to be hosted at Workshop 17. Might I ask cheekily, Philani, if you invited the new minister so he can come and immerse himself on a little bit more of the artistic and creative disciplines of his portfolio?
Do you know, I was actually really excited about the new minister and thought there are opportunities that, he's going around doing his roadshows and he might just make time to attend, some of our smaller fringe niche events. I plan to, yes. We're working quite closely. The department has been a great supporter to the festival, of course, with the presidential employment stimulus. So it's been good. They've been really, honorable in the way that they've received applications and responded to to credible work, I think.
Lovely. Okay, let's look a little bit closer on the items on the calendar. So you mentioned On the Fringe, and of course we know that there's the Kiddies program that's also coming through. Let's dissect some of the highlights that folks shouldn't be missing. Not that they should miss anything, but the things that really, really are going to get people revved up and excited.
So what I'm really excited about, and I'm not going to do it in chronological order, I think people can visit our website, which is www.folklore.community. I'm really excited about someone who's inspired me in my career as a young person and becoming the artist that I am. Mamgcina Mhlophe and her storytelling and all the books that she's written. So we'll be hosting and unmasking her for an adult audience on the 30th of August. And she'll then be supported by a duet of poets, Vangile Ganjo and Mo Africa. And this is something, with a band, with a live band, and just trying to get an understanding of her upbringing and how she arrived at storytelling and how she's been able to maintain the craft of oral traditions. And that very same weekend, we have a kids program with her where she'll be delving into the storytelling for kids, and we'll run a kids podcast and other kids workshops. Something else that I'm really excited about is that we're adding film screenings to the festival. We have Sifiso Kanyile with a series of documentaries that are really relevant to the conversation of now and forever. One that we'll be screening is called Uprise, and it's about the June 16 uprising. Certain information that, some of us as young people don't have, but can, often be found in documentaries. It's so essential sometimes to bring context and to remind us of how change can be impacted. He'll be showing 2 other films as well, A New Country as well as The Reclaimers. Other highlights, we have Fred Kumalo on a literature talk and book fair. We'll be going into our land and our stories, and they'll be supported by Sibusile Kaba, a folk artist, who'll be doing an acoustic set. I'm really, really excited about that as well. Those are the highlights outside of the ones that I've mentioned of the play Igama, paired with Siama Kuzeni. And myself and Nikki B will launch on the 7th of August. So this is all very exciting. We haven't announced our Cape Town program, but it's also going to be absolutely, I think, meaningful and something to look forward to, a beautiful intersection between artists.
Listen, I'm already excited about the program that involves Mamgcina Mhlophe, because I think what a treasure of a talent that is vested in her, and any opportunity where that intergenerational dialogue and exchange you spoke about can be presented and sort of use her as a vessel is an opportunity that cannot be missed by anybody. The fact that she's there and she's in conversation and dialogue about her own body of work, her contributions, her story, but also simultaneously doing what she does, in my opinion, best, which is ignite the younger minds. It is definitely a day that one wants to be at the folk festival.
100%. I'd say she's the chief storyteller. She's the origin. She's the oracle.
That she is. By way of the details, so Quicket, I know, is where we go for ticketing, but give us an idea of how that looks.
100%. So all tickets are on Quicket. We do have a link from our link tree that can come from our Instagram pages and Facebook pages, which is folklorefestival.za, where you can basically see all the links in one that lands you on our landing page. We also do have a all-access pass that's transferable, whether between family members or friends, of 2,000 Rand for all the shows, which is fantastic, because sometimes when we think of things in bite-sized chunks, we kind of get a little, you know what I mean? So I think this is kind of a donational fee that can allow people to kind of, get others to come, but get themselves to come. So we also have an all-access pass for the Fringe show. It doesn't include the main festival. I think that following a lot of the work that we're doing on social media is really, really key. And that's, again, folklorefestival.za. And our website is www.folklore.community.
Pilani, thank you so much for the time. That was Pilani Bubu, who is the festival director for the Folklore Festival, and it's making its return already for its 3rd edition. And Quicket is where you can go for the tickets. And of course, you heard all of those ticketing packages. It promises to be a very good one by way of the itinerary for the entire family. It's 2:30. Madupi standing by with your headline news.
Thank you very much, Bridget, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemisa Jordina says South Africa is one of the 30 most water-scarce countries in the world, but its consumption is more than the world average. The newly appointed Communications Minister, Zweli Malatsi, has outlined some of his most pressing priorities, and there's confusion and chaos in the western part of Gaza after Israeli tanks withdrew following a 2-day operation by ground troops in that area. Details of these and other stories coming up at 3.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Well, listen, you know that on Fridays we amplify the vibes just a little bit. I think by now, even our more mature listeners have realized that on Fridays, for the last year or so of this show, we amplify the volume just a little bit and remind you that the weekend is upon us. And as we often say, that Fridays are for fun, fabulous conversations with friends. We take a creative skew. She's in the studio with us. It's very rare that I see my producers. You notice how I have an all-female production team, including my tech producer. It's very rare that you see all of them dancing. Bonke. It was like conga in here. They were conquering. Like, I tell you, they were conquer. If you don't know what conquer is, just grab a youth and ask the youth what is conquer. Busi joins me in studio. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mahad. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You know, I just realized, and we played in with your song featuring FK on this one, Hindelendlela. When you hear your music, you walked in when they were going crazy.
When they were going crazy, and I was like, okay, it's because I'm on my way. So I guess, yeah, Nalutando. But Cloud City, this is new.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah, it's very new. They were going crazy. Does it still have, because, I mean, you've performed in all the years that I've known you, in, you know, being on radio, you being a singer-songwriter. We've interacted and engaged a bit over the years. You've performed all over the country, in Europe, big stages, big festivals. But when you see people respond to your music, is the feeling still the same now as it was the first time?
It is. It never gets old. And it's something that you never get used to. It's very humbling, I have to say, because, you know, sometimes people that like your songs and then at some point they get used to it and then it's like, yeah, no, when it plays, like, when you're on stage, it's like, oh yeah, that's the song. But every time when I'm on stage, it feels like it's my first time when people are just responding to me like that. Never gets old.
Oh, you see, this is why some of us wish we were musicians.
It never gets old.
That rock star vibe. I also just realized that in all the years, I've never said your surname, Ngweliso, because Ngweliso. Because everybody just, you Busi. And we respect what you've chosen to go as.
And it's okay. It's okay because Ngweliso is very hard to pronounce. Some people don't even know how to spell it. I had to correct people where they just say QW. I have to say there's an N before the Q. So I know, Guti, it's not a surname that you see every day. Some people that have a surname almost similar to mine, it's Ngweniso.
Okay.
Which means something totally different from what Ngweliso. And don't ask me what Ngweliso means. I have no idea.
I was not going to ask.
I have no idea.
I was not going to ask because then I'd have to say it again.
Ngweliso.
Busi is joining us, and you've just come out of a musical hiatus.
Yes.
Let's talk about that before we talk about coming out of it. Let's talk about getting into it.
It was very necessary, Bridge. It's one of those, you know, I was in the industry since when I was like 20. I just turned 20. So all I knew was just being on stage, being out there. And there was just a time in my life where I was just like, yo, I feel like I'm ready to start a family. I just want to have kids.
Yeah.
I just want to have kids, and I just want to be there for my children and be present. Because if you're going to be in the industry and have children, it's very hard to juggle the two. And I was not trying to do that to myself. So I was like, I'm just going to take a break and just give them the 100% that they need until they're independent enough. So now my kids are all grown. My firstborn is 18. My secondborn, which Naif, he was not part of me taking the break. He was the reason I decided to start singing to make a living. And then Oapiwe is 7 years old. Leanda is turning 4 next month. So for me, especially with Leanda, my daughter, she's my only daughter. And she's the reason why I decided to just come back. And lucky for me, or I'm blessed enough that my fans were calling for me. So I just needed her to see that, yo, mommy is more than just mommy.
Yes.
You know, mommy is a healer. Mommy is someone that the world is calling for. Mommy is a superstar, baby.
I love it.
Yeah, so I had to.
I love it. I love the fact that, and I'm sure every time you say this, your 18-year-old boy, he probably, well, almost young man now, he probably rolls his eyes at, you are the reason why I had to go into music.
I had to.
And make a living.
Because one thing, I had him when I was very young. I was a teenage mom. The disappointment in my parents' eyes when they found out that I was pregnant. I mean, I'm 17, my mom is a pastor, and now I'm pregnant. It made me just, I made a promise to myself that I don't ever want to see that look in their faces. And I'm going to make sure that I take care of this child that I brought into this world. And I don't want my mom and dad to be the ones that are just struggling with Umdana. And thank God for the talent, because honestly, I didn't even struggle that much getting into the music industry. I went and studied music. That's where I met Demo.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, I'm in studio. I'm recording Turn Me On that ends up in Black Coffee's album. The next thing, I have an album out at like 20. So he was the reason. And I'm very, very, very glad that I had him that young.
Really?
I am, because since having Umdana, my life completely changed. The way I think, the way I do things. And I don't think it would have happened if maybe none of that would have happened. And everything else that followed after being the teenage mom, teenage pregnancy, and all the, the naysayers. I'm not condoning teenage pregnancy, but what I want young girls to know, pregnancy is not a life sentence. It's not the end of the world. You can actually bounce back and make something of yourself. It should never be, oh, I'm a loser, I had a child and this isn't. No. In fact, that child should be the reason why you fight for your life, because now you're not only living for yourself, but you have to live for that little person that you brought into this world, because so instead of feeling sorry for yourself, get up, do something.
We're going to come back on the other side of this. This is why we do this show, right? So we can present to you some of your favorites in ways that you've never seen them or met them before. We're going to come back on the other side of this break. And of course, we're going to talk about the new music and coming back into music and what that is like with Ubusi. And if you are listening and you are a fan, or you want to reflect on some of her music with her and moments in your life and how that music came into play, you're more than welcome to do so. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, or 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's take a quick one.
Okay. So what do we have here? A new dub telenovela on S3? The last one was absolutely amazing. So let's see what this one's about. Paloma, a seamstress and single mother, receives the wrong test results and finds out that she only has 6 months to live. Interesting. She decides to live her best life and do things that she never had the courage to do. Understandable. Paloma unexpectedly finds love from a stranger she slept with. I see. She finds out that she received the wrong results and decides to meet the man who actually has 6 months to live? Wait, what? And right there, I know I'm hooked. Channel your inner drama with Bomb Successful, a life worth living. Weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
When during the break, I'm having Xhosa lessons here. And we are with singer-songwriter and, of course, a businesswoman born Busisiwe Nguliso. She joins us, a.k.a. Busi, is how you know her. And she's been a part of your life and your memories through her music for many years now. So you take the decision because of mommyhood and wanting to be in that moment. Yeah. And I'm sure even beyond just mommyhood, wanting to explore other chapters of yourself as a woman evolving and coming into being. What is, because how long was the break?
5-6 years.
5-6, not too long.
It wasn't that long.
Not too long at all. It just seems longer to us.
Yeah. Because y'all are big babies.
Yes, that wasn't that long. But in those 5-6 years, what do you then discover about yourself in all the different facets? Motherhood, woman, partner, singer, everything.
That I am very impatient.
Oh,
and
really?
Very.
With such a soft voice.
You should hear my voice when I'm like very irritated. I learned that I need to work on my patience. You grow up saying patience is a virtue.
Yes.
But you don't really know what that means and what that comes with until you actually in a situation where you have to be patient. Firstly, let me talk about I love talking about my kids. And I'm not sorry. You give birth to this little person, and then already I'm just like, I'm 5 months. And it's just like, no, but you have to take each day as it comes, because when they get to 5 months, there's no going back. You're never going to be able to handle, to hold your baby like that ever again. So I had to learn to be patient with myself and be patient with everyone around me. I was just so used to having my way, being in the industry and calling the shots. I want this, I want that. And now this is real life, and you have to wait until that thing that you want happens. I have to wait for my kids to be 5 so that I am able to leave the house and not stress about basheke kanjani, And then I discovered that, that's from my fans, loyal fans. Every time I talk about them, I just want to cry.
Why?
They are so amazing. My fans made me discover that I am a healer. My voice is a tool that God uses to heal souls. I just sang and I had no idea what I was doing until I took a break, and I had all people just coming back and saying, I was depressed. I was homesick, and I would listen to your albums and I would feel at home. I was depressed and I wanted to take my life, and I'm just thinking, but house silana.
Yes,
so and just knowing that about myself and being comfortable with it, because it's such a huge responsibility. I needed to be out, away from the limelight, for me to take all of that in and know what it means. Yeah.
When you write music, right, I want to ask you this, because I got some of your songs on my phone and I groove to you from time to time.
Thank you, babe.
But who or what or where are you drawing from? For instance, when you wrote Easy to Love, because I'm like, hey, Bana, this girl was in her in this moment.
I see you, Bridge. I was. Wow, okay. Has anyone ever told you that? Let me be the first.
I mean, I'll take it.
I love you. Okay, yes, when I wrote that song, I was in a relationship with someone that I had so much respect for and was so inspired by, indoda ecikiziweyo ezithembileyo ehlonipha amasiko. Because we as Africans, we are so quick to adapt to the Western culture. The fact that he was so rooted, and everything else that he would do for his village, for me was just like, yo, you're so easy to love. And I was obsessed with Rihanna at the time. There was a song by Rihanna that said, you're not easy to love. And I was like, no, I don't know who you're talking about, but the one I'm with is so easy to love. That's that on that. Bridget.
I mean, I just had to. Because we think about these things as people who listen to your music and be like, I wonder, what's the story behind that?
I mean, when you are so in love with someone, you love everything about them. I even say, sometimes love goes beyond, love alone is not enough. You have to like a person.
Yes.
Everything about them, the way he walks, the way he smiles. And most of my friends are like, okay. He smiles. Okay, friend. You don't have to understand. I get it. So it was just talking about someone that I didn't just love, but I liked everything about them. And like I said, I was really inspired by this person, how they carry themselves around people, the respect that he would just, he commands respect just as he walks in. You can't help but.
Listen, I'm not going to ask her because clearly there's a Dear John letter somewhere, so I'm not going to ask her. Are there any songs, and I want to talk about the new song, but are there any songs that you reflect on and you think, maybe I put too much into that, or I exposed too much in that, or I just want to take it back because actually that moment is unworthy of that song?
Never. Because when I write a song, I always try not to overshare. So, because apparently I'm an oversharer, I mean, I sit at reception and I tell people about my problems. So when I write my music, I try not to overshare, and I try to put myself in somebody else's shoe. And I try to find a very simple way of expressing what I want to say. So most of the songs that I've written, really, I'm very proud of. I mean, Easy to Love. Easy to Love, I was that girl. No, not Easy to Love, man. Yeah, but Get Over It.
Yes.
You know, Get Over It. I was that girl. This is me, and you're not going to change me. And I did not want to mince my words. Still today, I can still sing the song the same way. I still have the same attitude towards, whatever situation I'm in right now.
I hear you. All right. There's a quick break coming up. We're going to take that quick break and then we're going to come back. I want to get into the new song because you got a new song, Faithful, and we're going to get into that. Oh, okay. We're not going to take the quick break as yet. We missed the cue. So we'll take the break at the end. That's fine.
Okay.
Let's get into Faithful, which is your new song.
My new song.
Yes. Tell me a bit about that.
Oh, Faithful. Faithful has to be a song that I'm so proud of. The team that I worked with, most of the songs that I've done, it will just be me and maybe demo here and there. But every word that I'm writing it's always me. The lyrics, the melodies and everything. But this one, it was such a beautiful collaborative effort that I involved how many people on the song? It's myself, Demo, Kat, SA, Pa, Tafi, and Lulama. There's like 5 people on the song. And Faithful, when I was recording Faithful, there was just so much happening in my life. And it was almost as if, do I really want to do this? I think I just want to say, maybe this is not for me, Ndia Foster. And God was just faithful throughout, and we needed to give him the glory because for so long, it's always been me, until I had to sit down and until I had to learn so much and realize, Guti, actually, all the glory belongs to God. And let me do a song for coming back. Let me just do a song that is going to give glory to God and just for people to know where I am rooted. Really, he saw, guys, if I have... Now we need like 3 days, okay, for us to unpack this. But God has been so faithful in my life. The things that I've been through, I always say that when I think about them, sometimes I'll be like, hey, yes, strong. Because some people would be in mental hospitals, mental institutions, because there are some things that happen in your life that just it breaks you so much that you have to constantly motivate yourself. You have to build yourself. You can't let this break you. But throughout all of that, the fact that I'm still alive and I'm here to tell the story, it can only be the grace of God. So that's what Faithful is. And plus my mom is a pastor.
Yeah.
She's very proud. Finally. Gospel song from my daughter after Ngceli Ndoda. Remember my first song was Ngceli Ndoda.
Listen, and you saying this after having a child at 17. So it's like,
Kwanti, what is wrong with you?
Have you learned nothing from your life experience? I love it. And before, because I want to wrap up with your song, and we've got like 4.5 minutes left to the show. But working with your past collaborators, because you worked with Demo on this one, and you guys have worked together before. There's a comfort there, I guess. And when you come back, what does that feel like?
It's still the same. It's still home. It's still working with someone that understands my voice, someone that understands how I am in studio. He knows that I'm very lazy. He's very patient with me. Oh, guys, can I just disclaimer? Guys, I'm very lazy. I'm in studio, yazi. Now put me on stage, Baba. That's why I come alive. But when I have to be in studio, thinking and making sure that whatever I'm writing, whatever we're writing is something that everyone can sing along to and can understand. It's so emotionally taxing. It's really draining. So I just love being on stage. And now working with someone who understands that, so much that sometimes I just look at him like, because he'll be like, okay, leave it there. So please give me that velvet voice. And I'm like, I thought I was done. What do you mean? I have to do this again. So he knows how to, because remember, I started working with this person when I was like 20. Now I'm like 37. And I went back to that person and everything is still the same. Yes, Matt, I'm such a creature of habit.
But it's a beautiful thing sometimes because there's magic there. You know, why fix it if it ain't broke?
If it ain't broke, honey.
You know? Okay, let's leave it there for today as we chuckle. I'm going to take some of the snippets from this show and share it with someone I know is going to have a vested interest.
Bridget.
But thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me,
It is good to have you back in the music world, and people are very excited. So we know that we're going to be seeing Ubusi on stages come the summertime. From myself and my team, we appreciate you for always choosing to be in conversation with us. And of course, we'll see you again on Monday. Have an incredible weekend. If you happen to be in Cape Town and the weather is still, causing havoc, just be safe out there in the streets. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again. We're playing out with Faithful.
Channel the forgiving spirit of Utata Madiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Liebau shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Madiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
stories at 3 o'clock. Majodina delivers her budget vote speech and the new communications minister outlines his priorities. A very good afternoon. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina says South Africa is one of the 30 most water-scarce countries in the world, but its consumption is more than the world average. She was delivering her budget vote speech during a mini plenary session of the National Assembly. Majodina made reference to World Population Day observed yesterday, which called for creating a more equitable world that has access to water, access to health facilities, as well as education.
The water and sanitation sector in our country is not spared, as well as faced with numerous challenges of our own. South Africa is one of the 30 most water scarce countries in the world, and that is caused by economic growth as well as population growth. Yet our average consumption of water is 218 liters per capita per day, compared to the international standard, which is 173 liters per day per capita. It therefore means we use a lot of water as South Africa.
Meanwhile, on a lighter note, Majodina cracked a joke when she greeted MPs by referring to the word conscientiously, which she struggled to pronounce when she took an oath during the recent swearing-in ceremony of the new government.
Honourable Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. Honourable members of this House, led by the Chair of the Portfolio Committee, I've seen other honourable members from other committees. Allow me to greet you. I can see you are conscientiously very ready.
Newly appointed Communications Minister Solly Malatsi has outlined some of his most pressing priorities. Speaking to our news desk, he emphasized the need for the public broadcaster to reduce its dependence on state funding and to address financial sustainability. Malatsi has also reiterated the importance of diverting funds meant for state-owned entities to social services that are needed to uplift the lives of the most vulnerable in society.
You need the state-owned enterprises like the Post Office, the Post Bank, the SABC to be run well, and some of them have been run well, but also to be financially sustainable so that they can increasingly be less dependent on state funding, because the reality of the financial situation that government finds itself in is that there is less and less money to fund government activities and government programs. So it will be